Siomra beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sherlock. Sure listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture. Sherlock. Sure listen.
Sherlock. Sure listen.
Sherlock, sure listen.
Sherlock, sure listen.
Sherlock. Sure listen.
Sherlock, sure listen.
Sherlock, sure listen. Oh, very spooky intro, Ben. You know what they say, the truth is au pair. Now, look, we've no time for weird X-Files related... It's not even a wordplay, it's barely even a joke. But we've still no time for it because we've loads of stuff to look at, including... the absolutely awful and unwanted Borderlands movie completely shits the bed. And, speaking of things that are awful and unwanted, Disney had a whole big event called D23. The 23 representing the number of people who cared. But Benjamin, that doesn't matter to us because we do a weekly pop culture podcast, so we had to keep our ear to the ground and listen to Disney stuff, including... first looks at a lot of stuff, but the only kind of exciting one is Daredevil Born Again. And we got a trailer for The Lion King Mufasa, aka the unwanted origin story of Mufasa. And we got a trailer for The Monkey, written by Stephen King and directed by that fella, or written by that fella who did Longlegs.
Yes, Osgood Perkins, Michael. Osgood Perkins.
That's the fella, yeah.
Sure, listen, Michael, if that wasn't enough, and it isn't, because nobody cares, Michael, if we cover D23 and no one will listen to this podcast. But luckily, Michael, you texted me a few weeks ago and you said, Ben! And I said, what? And you said, you know how we're not relevant at all and nobody listens to us?
Yeah. Oh, you're really feeling down on yourself this week, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah. I'm not feeling great, Michael. Not feeling great.
The bags under your eyes are darkening as you speak.
Like some kind of mid-MCU Rain villain played by none other than... who's that big spooky Danish fella? Mads Mikkelsen.
Or Toby Kimmel.
But come here to me, Michael. You said, what if we actually did a decent segment that actually looked at a bit of good pop culture and took a look at that? And I said, yeah, what have you got? And you said the quintessential. What if you took classic TV shows, series, moments in pop culture that are sequential, and you boil them down to their quintessence, Michael? Fucking, it's like one of those TikTok videos, Michael, where you watch a hydraulic press crush something.
Yeah.
For satisfaction.
It's like the distillation process, Benjamin. We're looking to distill the fine liqueur of content from the mash of the unrefined entire series. Mash is actually the right word there. I've accidentally used a bit of a pun around distillation.
Yep, no, you nailed it. You got it great there. Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Thanks.
Good man.
Anyway,
Look,
Benjamin, are we going to jump straight into it, or do you want to ask the listeners to leave us a review based on the last 5 minutes of this?
Nah, probably not this week, Michael. If you've listened to other podcasts that we put out, other
and they
episodes,
were good. Yeah,
and they were good. Why don't you leave us a little review wherever you listen? Could be Spotify, could be Apple Podcasts. You might even follow us on YouTube if that's where you listen to us.
You could if you wanted.
Just give us a little bit of support.
Yeah, and do try to remember the good episodes when you're leaving the review, and kind of disregard the last 5 minutes of nonsense from me and depression from Ben. Benjamin!
Yeah. Yes.
So look, what we've asked, basically, we've gone ahead and we've asked the internet, and we've said to the internet, oi, internet, listen, mate, you fuck. We don't want to hear your top 5 best episodes of the X-Files. We don't want to hear your top 10 best... We're not BuzzFeed, Benjamin. We're not getting AI to write this fucking content. We said to the internet, oi, internet, give us the episodes of the TV show The X-Files that most distill and condense and represent the quintessential experience of watching The X-Files. What are, for want of a better term, the X-Filiest episodes that ever X-Filed?
Michael.
What?
The listeners didn't disappoint at all.
I'll be the hokey, Benjamin. We're inundated with answers on this one. This is the most feedback we've ever got on a question ever.
Fucking chuffed.
Absolutely. You should have seen Ben during the week. He was so chuffed. He looked like an Australian. He was so chuffed.
Oh, I was chuffed, mate.
Yeah.
Chuffed.
He absolutely was chuffed. So, Benjamin, look,
Yeah.
We've asked people to tell us their 5 quintessential episodes of The X-Files. And a lot of people misunderstood and just told us their best 5. We're not calling those people idiots.
But we're kind of implying it.
Yeah. We're implying it, and then the listeners can infer that that's what we meant, because that's not that's not what we want. We don't want the listeners to be upset. So Benjamin, look, we were on the Discord, we were on the Instagram, we were on the TikTok, we were on the Reddit. All sorts of people were coming at us with what are the best 5 most quintessential episodes of the X-Files. And Ben, before we actually talk about the episodes, why don't you, Benjamin Colby, distiller of content, tell us what those listeners and those X-Files viewers, X-Filians I believe they call themselves, or I've just made that up, what do they believe are the quintessential characteristics of the X-Files without getting into episodes yet? Don't get into the episodes yet, Ben!
Okay.
Don't hear the episodes.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So, Michael, there's a few things. Few things that listeners came at us with, because you can't really understand the quintessence of something, Michael, without understanding the stylistic, aesthetic, and character choices behind it.
Right, go on.
And listeners seem to grasp that quite intuitively.
Some
they
of them
gave us quite a few ideas.
Some people just wrote their best episodes, Ben.
The number one thing, Michael,
Fucking
stop
idiots.
bashing the listeners, or they won't participate in the next quintessential. Stop it.
Yeah. You forgot. Sorry.
Stop. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this side of the hosting on this episode, leave Ben a review wherever you listen. I'll stick up for you listeners, unless I don't feel like it, in which case I probably won't. I'm notably fickle, capricious even. But come here to me, Michael.
What?
Fuck me, I'm rambling
Are we going to get to it? Are we going to get to this at all today?
The number one thing I was pointed out to us, Michael, on our bloody quintessential question was chemistry. Fuck me, David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Oh, sparks were flying. Jesus Christ.
Absolutely, sparks were flying, Benjamin. My mother watched the X-Files when I was but a young tween. And, I reckon she was just watching it because she wanted to see them having a big kiss.
Michael, I was waiting because no great X-Files fan was I before this. But Michael, I'm going to binge watch the shit out of X-Files after this. This was fucking fabulous. And all I could think was, Jesus. And I hate sex in television, Michael. Hate it.
Absolutely sexless.
Hate it. But Michael, I was watching this and I was saying, do you know what?
I hope they do a big kiss.
I wouldn't mind a bit of Mulder Scully smut. I'd watch that. I wouldn't say no.
They really nailed the chemistry. Benjamin, you know what's really upsetting about the X-Files?
What?
David Duchovny in that pilot episode is 32 and Gillian Anderson is 25. They're way younger, Benjamin, than even you.
Than even I, Michael. I'm old as shit now.
Oh, it's very upsetting. It's very upsetting watching something that I watched as a 12-year-old and now being a decade and a half older than them.
Do you know what's more upsetting than that, Michael? Is that
Go on.
When we started this podcast, I was the same age as Gillian Anderson.
He should have texted her, Ben. Anyway, look, Ben, one of the joys of this last week of doing the quintessential X-Files has been it's a good show.
It is a good show.
Obviously, we weren't asking for the best episode. We were asking for the quintessential episodes. And there are bad episodes of The X-Files, or less good episodes of The X-Files. But it has been really fucking enjoyable this week watching a good show. Because we watch a lot of Drek for this podcast. And sometimes we watch it ironically, and sometimes we watch it because I've seen every part of the MCU except the last 3 episodes of Echo, which even I couldn't stomach.
Michael, famously, the only show you couldn't stomach, Echo.
I couldn't. Ben, I saw all of Hellstrom. Most people have never even heard of Hellstrom. Couldn't watch the last 3 episodes of Echo. But look, the X-Files has been such a pleasure to revisit. Can I tell you, Benjamin, about my first encounter with the X-Files before we get going?
Go on.
Benjamin, I was a young lad of about 12, maybe 11 or 12. And one night, me and my younger brother were permitted to stay up and watch Nightmare on Elm Street. And we were going to watch it upstairs in our shared bedroom on our little CRT TV, while my parents watched it downstairs to keep an eye on the old content.
Very good.
And we got about 3 or 4 minutes into it, and I was absolutely shitting a brick. And then my mother downstairs also shot a brick and said, no, they're not watching this. And she came up and said, you are watching that, turn that off. And we went, oh, but Mom. We were American then.
Smart mother.
Yeah. So we said, look, we're all hyped up now to watch something scary. So she said, look, you can watch this X-Files. And we were like, what's that? And she said, it's about the FBI investigating horror mysteries. I went, all right, that'll do. And she put on whatever episode of the X-Files was on that day, and it happened to be the episode Fire. Generally not recognised as one of the better episodes. But for a 12-year-old who was hyped for a horror and already shitting bricks, a seminal moment in turning me into an X-Files fan.
Huge, I'd imagine, Michael. Huge.
Oh, terrifying. The scary energy was just unreal.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of hits the nail on the head, Michael, with a lot of what makes the X-Files so watchable, I think, and re-watchable. Now, as I said, no great X-Files fan was I prior to this, because I didn't have much experience with I didn't have a formative moment with it.
Well, Benjamin, you were only a wee burn.
I was only a wee burn, as someone Scottish co-hosting this podcast might say.
Yeah.
And, Michael, I have to say, this holds a remarkable amount of tension for a show made in the 90s. Oh, it carries it well.
Isn't it incredible? I've loads to say about that, but let's get to that when we talk about the episode. Benjamin, let's go back because we've got diverted. Tell us about what the listeners said were the quintessential characteristics. The chemistry you've already covered.
Chemistry was absolutely huge, Michael. Raw human fear was a big one, Michael. Raw human fear, as in there was a lot of... I think one of my favourite things about this, Michael, is there's plenty of paranormal shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
There's enough here to keep Mystery Inc. in business for decades, right?
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, you're never all that terrified of the ugly buggly stuff. There's always some sinister fuck from the government there going, oh, I'm fucking gonna drain Mulder's brain of all this knowledge through a sinister process. And you're kind of there going, a lot of the times Mulder gets strapped down to a table or someone gets lost in the woods, and it's not actually the monster that's scary, it's the experience that one of the two protagonists is going through. And it's just fucking awful, Michael.
Yeah, terrible stuff. Don't trust that old government. One of the things I really like about this show is because it's from the 90s and it's before American society turned on government and police and law enforcement as the baddies, that the government are definitely the baddies, but individual people in law enforcement can still be the goodies and the heroes. So although Mulder and Scully, and Mulder especially, are kind of outcasts, it is still the FBI are the goodies.
Yes, because very often Mulder and Scully are FBI agents who are pitted or forced to partner with larger government organisations, shady government organisations.
Very shady lads.
Against their will, Michael. And it's very entertaining because you're there going, oh, jeez, I wouldn't trust anyone in that room. Not one of them would I trust, Michael.
Not a single one of these lads, especially not that fella smoking fags.
Oh, who's that lad over there smoking fags in the corner? Don't like him.
Don't like
Shifty.
him from episode 1. He's just hanging around there.
He's pure shifty. He's pure shifty. Michael, that's probably a good jumping off point for one of the most common quintessentials we got.
Okay, are we going to go into the episodes?
Oh, will we? Will we?
All right, let's go then. Let's go.
Well, what else
start.
would you like to talk about, Michael? You can
Well, I
give me
don't
a
know.
bit more.
Was there anything else that the listeners said were the quintessential aspects of the X-Files?
Sure.
Before we get into the actual episodes.
Well, let's get into strong writing and characterization. You've already pointed out, Michael, it's a good fucking show.
It is.
It's a good fucking show. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it, Michael, is Mulder and Scully are bloody consistent.
Very much. Well, yes. You might argue that it doesn't maintain that through 11 seasons. But yes, certainly in the quintessential episodes, they are.
Michael, what show could maintain that through 11 seasons? Michael, I ask you.
Could any show maintain it through 11 seasons? I would argue no.
But one of the things I really enjoy, Michael, is that it should become a formulaic Drek thing where it is, here's the case, Scully. Oh, well, surely this has a logical explanation. What do you think, Mulder? Spooky shit. No, Mulder. Yes, Scully. Oh, damn it, Mulder. You might be right.
Yeah, Yeah, let's be honest. In the universe they live in, Scully being a skeptic, she's an idiot. There's just how long can you maintain it, please? It's so obvious.
Whatever about the first season. Fair enough. She's introduced to us as the green behind the ears, kind of fresh off the boat character, and she has been thrust into the world of the X-Files that Mulder has been kind of sloshing around in for decades. But she has to kind of come to grips. And fair enough. Season 1, you've been told that this fella is the crackpot in the basement. You know, he's not to be trusted. And you're essentially told by your superiors, you are there to discredit this man.
Yes.
And you go, all right, fair enough. She's skeptical. That's good enough. But after season 1, Michael, she's no fucking excuse.
No
Can't
excuse.
Be skeptical anymore.
No excuse for it. It's probably not aliens. They're fucking, look, they're there. They're just standing there in front of them. Benjamin, let's talk about the quintessential episodes. The most, surprisingly, both in terms of quality and the X-Files feeling, maybe the most popular vote for the quintessential X-Files episode was Pilot, which is fun.
Yeah.
Because it's from the era of TV shows where they didn't even waste their time naming the pilot episodes. They just called them Pilot.
Yeah, they just chucked it in there, Michael.
Now, I
Pilot.
would call it Evil Forest, but that's probably
Yeah.
why they haven't gotten me writing the names.
Evil Forest. Look, it's an attempt, Michael. I'll give you that.
Look,
I'll
Ben,
give you that.
one of the things about this episode is, first of all, it is quintessential. It's the quintessential X-Files experience. You've got spooky Mulder and skeptical Scully teaming up, running through the forest at night, getting lost, waving their torches around. You've got non-cooperative townspeople. You've got spooky interactions. You've got a little bit of government conspiracy. You've got, by the end, they figured it out, and then mysterious forces come and take away all their evidence and burn everything down. It's basically everything you want from an X-Files episode, except startlingly and jarringly omitted, it doesn't have the very famous theme tune by Mark Snow.
It doesn't. It's not there. Mark Snow's glorious theme tune that you can now hum to your heart's content didn't exist back then, Michael.
It didn't, and it really is telling by its absence that it's not there, because it plays some slightly heavy-handed, by contrast, ominous sounds as its opener.
It's a very quiet episode by comparison to the rest of the season. Obviously, the budget went into the writing team and getting
Benjamin.
getting the shots. Yeah.
Now, looking back on the X-Files, and this episode especially as a 40-something-year-old, quite media literate and pop culture savvy person, I never noticed at the time when I was a burn watching these. But the X-Files borrows a lot from contemporary horror and thrillers.
Yes.
And the one thing that really strikes me about the episode Pilot, or what did I say I'm calling it? Evil Forest.
Evil Forest.
The one thing that really strikes me about the episode Evil Forest is Agent Dana Scully is Clarice Starling.
Yes, she absolutely is.
100% is. The demeanour, they even look similar, the dress similar. Dana Scully becomes an iconic pop culture character in her own right. Eventually,
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But in this episode, it's very much like, what if Clarice Starling was off solving supernatural mysteries instead of chasing after Hannibal Lecter?
Yeah, so I mean, like, that's very much the setup, and I think it's a very intentional, even down to the way she's styled aesthetically, Michael. There's a real whack of Jodie Foster off her, especially in the haircut department.
Yeah,
at
she
the
got
beginning
a
of
bit
this
Jodie
season.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she doesn't have her kind of very famous bright red, distinctive Agent Scully hair.
No, it's a very run-of-the-mill box red.
The real
as it
Jodie
were.
Foster job.
Yeah, it's a real Jodie Foster job. But I mean, look, it's arguable, Michael. You sent that to me as a text when we started watching this, and it's all I could see, Michael, because I've recently been binging a bit. I've been going backwards through the Thomas Harris novels of Hannibal Lecter and the TV show Hannibal and the movies of Hannibal, because I'm quite interested in them at the minute. But Michael, I hate to tell you, but Fox Mulder is just Will Graham.
Who's Will Graham?
Will Graham is the kind of savant criminal profiler of the Hannibal Lecter series in the novels, and he then became the central protagonist of the much beloved, often fanficked Hannibal TV show from America there a couple of years ago. Now,
he's Will Graham if he was a bit of a sex pest.
yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I think that might be how you'd describe any David Duchovny character. Insert pop culture parallel here, but a bit of a sex pest.
A bit of a sex pest. You can't help with David Duchovny's real life character rubbing off on his on-screen appearances, and I've chosen those words specifically on purpose. But Benjamin, it's a very good episode. It's a self-contained episode. There's a hint of government conspiracy. There's You know how you know this is a pilot episode of a TV show?
Go on.
The female lead gets into her smalls.
Oh, yes, she does. She does it right quick.
She does.
Very little reason.
Within very little reason, within 25 minutes, she's in her smalls. And I was like, it's the pilot. That'll be good in the trailer.
Because we don't see that again for a while.
No, very little, actually.
But, look, there's a few core X-Files things established here. One of my favorite being, humans are actually awful sometimes.
Probably worse than aliens.
Probably worse than aliens, as it happens. And that seems to be that establishes a very strong running theme. Aliens are absolutely real.
Yep.
But sometimes people are worse.
But Benjamin, the next quintessential episode that we got proves that there's one thing worse than people, and that is stretchy people.
Michael.
Yes, go on.
So I scanned through a few of the comments we got from listeners, and I kept seeing the word Tooms. And I foolishly, Michael,
go on,
went looking for an episode called Tooms.
There is an episode called Tooms, or there was.
It's later though, Michael. It's not.
Would you believe though, Ben, this is a lovely little bit of trivia. That episode Tooms from season 1. So Tooms is from Eugene Victor Tooms, who's the protagonist of episode 3. And he is a horrible genetic mutant man who can squiz down through your chimney pipes and eat your liver.
He's the fucking worst.
And he comes back. They knew they were onto a winner because he comes back in episode 22 or something, which is called Tooms. But now on Disney Plus, for some reason, it's called Squeeze 2.
Yeah, so Squeeze was the episode that we got shouted out quite a bit, Michael.
Yeah.
And I just remember people saying, Tooms will haunt me forever. And I was like, it can't be that bad. It fucking is, Michael. Tooms is fucking awful.
Awful stuff. So, Benjamin, this episode is probably the episode that, as a teen, really got me. Because this was some scary shit on TV in the 90s. We didn't have horror on TV in the 90s, Ben. Maybe a little bit of Twin Peaks, maybe a little bit of The Twilight Zone. But you didn't get this level of creepy, terrifying, squeezy man coming down this chimney to get you. I was terrified of squeezy men coming down the chimneys to get me for at least 6 months after this episode.
Yeah, look... David Duchovny, Fox Mulder hits the nail on the head at the end, where so spoilers for the episode, but
there's going to be
listening to this, you're an
I've
X-Files fan. They get him, they get Tooms,
Yeah.
and they lock him up, right? Yeah. But Mulder's looking in through the little peeper in the cell, and he just says, all these people paid so much money for these gates and cameras and securities, and they couldn't stop this guy. Nothing can stop this guy. And I just went, ugh. And he sums it up perfectly. He sums up what's so unnerving by Tooms because our mate Shane's mate Donal Logue also hits the nail on the head in that episode where he's like, that's a 6-inch by fucking 3-inch vent. There's no way he could fit through there. He fucking could.
He could, Donal Logue, friend of the podcast, Donal Logue. He absolutely could. Now, Ben, I love Donal Logue's character in this because he's a careerist FBI agent who's no time for any of this supernatural nonsense. But you know what I really like about this episode? It's 3 episodes in. It's only episode 3. And Scully, Agent Dana Scully, is taking no shit about people looking down on Mulder or the X-Files. I don't see a modern show would have one of the leads so fully commit to it that quickly. And it's so great that when everyone else is disparaging the X-Files, she's like, nah, we're protecting the victims, you dick. Stop being such a dick, or else I'll shove my fist right up your butt. She doesn't say that. I can't remember what she says.
She does call Donal Logue out very, very firmly, Michael. Donal Logue confronts her about...
Friend of the podcast, Donal Logue.
Friend of the podcast, Donal Logue confronts her about halfway through the episode, I'd say. He says, whose side are you on, Scully? Yeah. And she says, the victims. And then she just kind of confidently strides off. And I was just like, yes, Scully. Yes, Scully.
Get in, Scully.
As if I wasn't already in love enough with Gillian Anderson. I didn't have any of the X-Files Awakening for Gillian Anderson. I've only ever seen Gillian Anderson in the last 10 years, and I was still into it. But Michael, Jesus Christ.
Have you got a Gillian Anderson thing now? Good. Well, I'm glad that we can keep you developing well into your 30s. Ben, there's another thing I really like about this episode. It's that when Tooms is creeping down the chimney pot to come and get Scully, she starts running a bath. And I was thinking, she's going to get in her smalls again. But no, it's episode 3, so no more of that. So instead, you get a very poorly choreographed action scene. The action in this episode is atrocious.
Oh, some of the cuts, Michael, just to save on budget. Because, we're set up to have what is an intensely creepy villain, Michael. Because, Mulder sets us up when he finds the fingerprint on the vent. And he says, that's an elongated fingerprint. We even get a little bit of a setup that hints at a more monstrous being than what we actually get presented with, which is the absolutely scene-for-scene rip-off of It, where...
Weird. Like the X-Files, again, it wears its pop culture influences on its sleeve. The opening shot of this is, we all float down here, Billy Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. Tooms is there stalking a businessman from the sewers, essentially. But, that's fine. I can get behind that. But we're hinted at that this man is a mutant and that he's some monstrous being that can elongate his form. And we only really get one scene where we see him kind of collapsing his skeleton like a rat to go down the chimney. Barely.
Yeah.
Barely. And then there's the awful scene in Scully's bathroom where he's in the vent 1 minute, they cut, and then suddenly they cut back and he's halfway out of the vent, and I was like, for fuck's sake,
he's leaping out of this massive vent. Yeah. Look, it's fairly low budget, but it's fabulous. It's so effective. And what makes it the quintessential X-Files experience is it's the monster. It is the Monster of the Week episode. There are episodes like this strewn throughout the X-Files where you've got some sort of human hybrid or freak or, someone who's been experimented on or someone who has powers, and they just pop up consistently, but they're always chasing the dragon of trying to be as good as Squeeze. So having these two, having Evil Forest and Squeeze as episodes 1 and 3, how could this show fail?
In fairness, it's so strong, Michael. And it's funny that you mentioned, how X-Files wears its inspirations on its sleeve.
Go on.
In the beginning. But Michael, I couldn't help but watch season 1 of the X-Files and go, this has influenced everything.
Yeah. Look, it has. But Benjamin, look, I'm going to cut across you because rather than talking about what X-Files has influenced, I think you were doing a fabulous segue there. So, one of the best episodes of X-Files might as well have been called, Mom, can we go see John Carpenter's The Thing? And then Mom says, no, son, we have John Carpenter's The Thing at home. And then you get the X-Files episode, Ice.
And Michael, I think this is the quintessential X-Files. Only from the little bit I've watched now. I've watched about 20 episodes in preparation for this now.
He went a bit overboard, ladies and gentlemen.
I can genuinely say, Michael, I'm hooked. I want to be an X-Files fan now. I would like to be.
You want to believe, would you say?
I want to believe, Michael. I want to believe. And I think Ice is a perfect example of that. Number 1, very lazy title. Love it. Has very little to do overall with the episode.
Scary Forest. Yeah.
But number 2, it is a bottle episode, which is almost a bottle episode. Almost a bottle episode, in that they're stuck in an Arctic research facility.
Yeah, but I mean, what makes it not a bottle episode is that the Arctic research facility was a new set.
Well, that's true.
It's a single set, but it's not like it was set in Mulder's office, for example.
Yeah, well, that's true. But what I really liked about it, Michael, is, again, wears its influences on its sleeve. 1982's The Thing is the driving force behind this. Paranoid people, not sure who's infected. How do we figure that out? Who do we trust? Fabulous stuff.
Watch out for the dog.
Watch out for the... Poor dog.
Ben, the dog survives in this.
The dog survives, it's fine. But, Michael, I didn't like it there for a few minutes. I don't like Animal Jeopardy. I'm not a fan.
No good. Look, it's very much, and we talked about this episode on this podcast probably about 5 years ago. I don't even remember what the context was. I think we might have been talking about paranoia in TV or not trusting people or The Thing like movies and TV shows. Because the influence of The Thing is incredible. Like, it really is. It's people in an Arctic research station. The previous inhabitants have been killed. The infection springs forth from a dog. No one knows how to trust each other. They check each other by giving each other blood tests. It's incredibly derivative of The Thing. But can you imagine, Benjamin, turning this on TV on a random Friday night as a 13-year-old when you had 4 channels? Imagine getting this quality of horror entertainment as a horror-starved teenager in the 90s. This was... You would be thinking about this for years after seeing this episode on TV randomly.
The cold open alone, Michael, is spectacular. It's the two lads, and we don't know what's going on at the time, but it's just these two lads who are clearly in a state of mania. But even the cryptic way he delivers the line, it ends, well, we are not ourselves, or we are not us. We are not us, I think, is the phrase that he uses. And it's just fabulous. And then you see the two men agree in mutually assured destruction. And my favourite thing beyond that, Michael, is they forgot about the fucking dog.
They did.
And I love it. Because those two men execute themselves in order to stop it from going any further. Very noble, but you forgot about the dog.
Forgot about the dog. The dog had a worm as well. Ben, one of the best bits of this episode, though, and speaking now to a man in his 30s who's having a sexual awakening, is the sexy checking each other.
Oh, Michael, the erotic charge from this is an essential episode in many ways, because it is Mulder's realization that he may have a partner in Scully, who trusts him, and it is Scully's realization that Mulder isn't as fucking nuts as he seems.
Yeah, and is a sex pest.
But Michael, the lingering fucking back scruff check from both of them.
Scenes.
Jesus
Unbelievable
Christ.
scenes.
Talk about awkward moments with your parents in RTE at 9 p.m.
I won't, Benjamin. I can't face the memories. I can't face the feelings. David Duchovny's character Fox Mulder also has a great joke about, now before anyone's embarrassed, I would like to point out we're in the Arctic, before taking off his pants. Great joke.
And I love that the other two characters don't get a look in on the sexy checking. It's just like, no, you're grand. You're grand.
And I think they were a couple, but no, nothing sexy for them.
Not interested in that.
Not interested in them. We're only interested in Mulder and Scully. Benjamin.
Go on.
The next quintessential episode is quite a jump, though.
Go on.
The next one that people really kept recommending was Clive Brookman's Final Repose. Have I got that right?
Clyde Brookman's.
Clyde Brookman's Final Repose.
Yeah.
And this is from season 3.
Yes.
And watching only these 5 episodes, which is what I set out to do, it's like a different show.
It changes everything, Michael. There's suddenly an awful lot more humor in the X-Files from there on. There's a delicious kind of irony to things. There's some fabulous character acting from Peter Boyle, who plays Clyde Brookman.
Yes.
It's an odd show. It shows I think one of the things it does really well is Mulder is very unflappable in season 1, to the point that he makes jokes about his own unflappable nature. So there's the moment in Squeeze where he puts his hand in bile and he says to Scully, do you think I can get this off my hand without ruining my unflappable demeanor.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, and he flicks it off. But he is quite unflappable. But I felt in this episode, we start to see the real desperation in Fox Mulder, that he really does want to believe, and he will push his own skepticism to the side to get to it. Like, he's desperate to believe.
Yeah, like, people really like this episode. It's one of the kind of... It's not quite a full-on comedy, but it is the X-Files, to quote someone from Reddit, it's the X-Files beginning to satirize itself. And you know
Absolutely.
it right. You know it right from the start, because you have these two other agents saying, "Oh, I can't believe we're bringing this guy onto the case. People say he's so spooky, and you know he's got weird methods, but he's usually right." And then Mulder and Scully walk in, and they just go, "Who are you?" And it's like, "Oh, it's one of those episodes. I see."
Oh, how clever! How clever, guys!
Benjamin, you know this was made in the mid-90s, because the mid-90s sci-fi shows just really had it in for Uri Geller.
Oh, Michael, Yappy becomes a bizarre recurring character in season 3. He pops up all over the place.
Yeah.
He exposes some alien hoax footage in an episode that we're just about to mention a little bit later on in this episode. But Uri Geller, the famous spoon bender, Michael. Uri
Famously
Geller.
litigious spoonbender, Uri Geller.
Yeah, but it turns out was an absolute sham of a human.
Yeah, you can't bend spoons with your mind, Ben. It's not possible.
It's just not possible, lads. But very interesting episode. I think Peter Boyle delivers this amazing kind of reluctant psychic. And it's my favourite thing because he's such a schlubby, like, he wants his power to work for the lottery. He looks at, like, the National Enquirer knockoff newspaper and the thing, and he's like, that's horseshit. You're calling bluffs. What is this? But at the same time, there are consistent hints throughout the episode that there are some real psychics. But my favourite delivery of the entire episode, Michael, has to be, isn't it obvious, son? And the psychopath's looking at him. He goes, "You're a homicidal maniac."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, that does actually clear a lot of things up."
That does explain a lot.
It was my favorite bit. I was just like, "Yeah, he's just nuts." He's just
One of
nuts.
my favorite things about this episode is Mulder and Scully's relationships is well and truly solidified by now, and
Yeah.
they're having a little chat. They're having little asides to each other. They're equals now. By the time this rolls around, they are absolutely equals. It's not the erratic genius and his minder. It's not, and this is something we probably should have said when we were talking about Evil Forest. It's not Clarice Starling and Will Graham anymore. It's not Sherlock Holmes and Dr. whatever his name is. What's his name? John Watson. She's not John Watson anymore.
No.
They're equals now. They're both fully developed characters with their own stake in it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it plays very, very well as a result. But it really is interesting to see the comedic timing come into it, even down to his bizarre premonition of Mulder's attempted assassination, and he keeps obsessing over the flavour of the pie that's squished into the ground.
Yeah. That's very
It's
good.
just very interesting. And I think it establishes some core kind of characterizations as well, in that Peter Boyle's character of Clyde Brookman delivers a beautiful kind of soliloquy on how Dana Scully is going to hold his hand with absolute compassion because she's a lovely person. And then I did feel that the end of the episode was just a real truck out of nowhere with that one. I was just like,
quite
oh,
abrupt.
Jesus.
Very, very
Jesus.
abrupt. So he kills himself with pills and a bag.
Yeah, and so one of the bizarre things that this is, Michael, the ending of this episode is based on a real life case of suicide.
Oh, go on.
And there was a famous American writer and director of comedy films during the silent era. His name was Clyde Bruckman.
Oh, go on.
And so that's what the gag with the pie is. That's for people that don't know, banana cream pie and coconut cream pies are famous slapstick gags that would have
Slap
been
'em on
really
the face with
popular. Yeah, exactly. In the era of Buster Keaton, in the era of the Three Stooges, that was a staple of the comedy genre. So that's another little reference to him there. But Clive Brookman successfully completed suicide in the 19th, Michael, his career, like many silent film stars, writers, directors, dwindled with the advent of, full sound television and, the motion picture evolving into something new. But yeah, in 1955, he parked his car outside a local restaurant, went into the restroom and shot himself in the head. And he had a really tragic kind of note which said, "I have no money to pay for a funeral." A really tragic moment, but it is kind of it's aligning with that notion, because one of the standout things of this episode for me was the gore and horror elements that Clyde Brookman is forced to endure.
The killer in this episode, Benjamin, although this episode is mostly played for laughs, the killer in this episode is just a hint away from just as creepy as Tooms.
Oh, he's awful, Michael. He's terrible.
An awful
He's genuinely
fella. He's
unnerving.
killing people, cutting out their entrails and taking trophies, and he's doing it because he's a homicidal lunatic. No other reason. We get the impression that maybe he might have a small amount of psychic ability, but really he's just a lunatic.
He seems to tap into other people's psychic ability or almost resonate with them, like a ping in the room or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting to me, Michael, is it is the X-Files playing with your expectations again, and it comes back to that thing is sometimes humans are worse, because we fully expect, Michael, for him to be the victim of some kind of government experiment or some kind of possession or some kind of alien experiment. It doesn't matter. We do think that because he approaches us, and he is a true unreliable narrator, or an unreliable cold opener in this case, Michael, because he comes to the first psychic and he says, "I don't know what's wrong. I can't." But Clyde Brookman hits the nail on the head. He goes, "You're a homicidal maniac. You've just created a delusion that lets you perpetrate horrible acts of violence."
Yeah, he's none of those things. He's just a fucking gee-bag. Benjamin, we've got one more episode to talk about. And I have my doubts about this one. So this one came up a lot in people's answers. As we got a shitload of answers. And the last one that kind of came up most commonly was Jose Chung's From Outer Space. And this episode, I think, actually doesn't cut the mustard for me as one of the quintessential X-Files episodes. That is not to say it's not great television. It is hilarious.
It's the Ray Bradbury-esque writer framing device for this of Jose Chung.
The kind of Truman
is
Capote-esque.
kind of phenomenal.
Oh,
yeah, he's kind of amazing. He's so weird. Have you ever seen Jiminy Glick interviews that Martin Short does? He dresses up in the big gag fat suit, and he's an obnoxious interviewer. The guy they get to play Jose Chung in this, Michael, is carved out of Jiminy Glick, or Jiminy Glick is carved out of him. I don't know what way it works, but he had this over-the-top mannerism and kind of silly, supercilious way of approaching things that was very interesting. I have to say, I would agree with you. This was the weaker recommendation for me, I thought.
I thought, this is a great episode. It's a great UFO gag episode. And there are things that happen in it, like the pilots being revealed to be humans. And
yeah.
There are things that affect what the X-Files fans call the myth arc. And it does have, I think, the single best gag in the entire 11-year run of the show, which is Mulder's girly scream. It is perhaps the funniest thing that happens in 11 years and 2 movies of the X-Files.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So funny. It is so funny. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen on television.
It is a phenomenal use, Michael, of the unreliable narrator trope. I never shut up about the unreliable narrator trope.
Always at it.
Michael, possibly because I am one myself.
You're just an unreliable co-host. You were 15 minutes late today.
Oh, thanks. You said we were going to air that off air. You son of a bitch.
We'll have it on now.
We'll have it out on air. But one of the things I enjoyed about that is it is a tapestry of the American UFO myth.
Yeah, it is.
And it's interesting, but it's very hard to get fully involved in, because it almost doesn't take itself seriously enough. Now, what I thought was interesting about this, Michael, is it ties directly back to episode 2 of the series, of season 1. Episode 2 of the entire series, where Mulder and Scully go to a town and investigate a pilot who's come out in a horrible rash. And it turns out the Air Force might have some experimental hybrid alien aircraft.
Don't be at it.
Don't be at it, lads. Now, I thought that was a phenomenal episode because it shows you what Mulder has been up against his entire career. That has some fabulous, fabulous notes of government oppression and paranoia, because Mulder is approached almost immediately from the get-go of episode 2, season 1, and told by a mysterious man, stop it. Don't be looking over there. And he does it. And there's no victory in it for Mulder because he suffers horrific consequences. They literally wipe his mind, Michael. And it's almost a direct follow-on to that episode all the way up in season 3 then, because the Air Force is still at it. Still a bag of dicks.
At it again. So this episode is a Darren Morgan episode.
Yes.
And Darren Morgan wrote most of the comedy episodes. And as someone who watched The X-Files on its first run, I remembered being disappointed when it was a comedy episode, because even having watched these 5 episodes, and, you know, as I said, I can't confidently say I've seen every episode of The X-Files because I might have trailed off when Mulder and Scully trailed off, but
sure,
I've seen most episodes of The X-Files as a teen and a young adult, and I haven't seen them in 15, 20 years. So this was a joy to revisit these episodes. But
yeah.
This episode in particular, it was like, okay. I'm not saying it jumped the shark, because it's a great episode. But for me, it's not the quintessential X-Files experience in the same way Squeeze and Ice are. That feeling of sitting down as a 12-year-old and getting genuine horror mixed in with will they, won't they romance on a Friday evening was just spectacular.
I mean, tidy stuff, Michael, all around. I think it's probably worth our time, Michael, just giving a little shout out to some of the people who were sound enough to give us full-on responses.
Very good. Okay, go on.
One fabulous account who followed us is a gentleman from Donegal. He runs an Instagram account called X-Files Colour, and he takes stills from the X-Files TV show and gives you a colour palette breakdown of them, so you can borrow them for your own designs. And he gave us quite a few excellent shouts, Michael, and he promoted us on his own account, which got us loads of X-File involved people to give us a little shout out. Which was very kind of them. Yeah, your good lady friend got in touch with some of her pals.
Did she?
Yeah, and she gave us some episodes based on that. Fabulous stuff all around. I am trying to find it here now, Michael, but it's When Darkness Falls, If Darkness Falls.
I think it's just called Darkness Falls. That's the one about the bugs that put you in a cocoon.
Oh, no, not bugs.
They put you in a cocoon, Ben.
Pals.
Horrible
that was from
stuff.
one of her pals. Just awful stuff, Michael. Not bugs, as the fella would say. They're the worst. Natalia Kej on Instagram gave us some great shouts, the pilot being one of them. Die Hand is another one that came up quite a bit, Michael. Sorry, D Hand, D Verlesd. I'm terrible at German.
Yeah.
And Redux came up quite a bit for us. Just Duchovny is the name of the account that gave us The Ghost Who Stole Christmas. Some people only gave us one, Michael. We asked for 5. Sometimes
That's all right.
Got one.
That's all right.
Who knows? That's fine. And every little helps, ladies and gentlemen. We got some fabulous shout-outs as well across different platforms, and we really appreciate it. It was a joy to go through some of your recs.
Don't forget though the main core group on the old Discord. Nayano said Ice, which was the kind of combination of Monster of the Week and We Like Each Other But We Cannot Be Together, which summarizes for me the X-Files. 9 Wassies, big X-Files guy. Squeeze and Tooms. He wants to count them as one, which I feel is cheating. And one we kind of ignored, which is the Erlenmeyer Flask, which is the final episode of season 1, which I'm not going to spoil for you too much because it feels like you're going to go ahead and watch it. But other than that, 9 Wassies is a big Darren Morgan fan, and the comedy episodes, War of the Coprophages and Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster from the reboot.
Ooh.
Were big ones.
Oh, that'd be good.
And Gwambi Guy summed the X-Files up nicely for me with his top 3 recommendations, Benjamin. Stretchy Liver Eating Guy.
Yeah.
Weird Band Incest Episode. And the one with aliens in it.
Squamby Guy, I don't know if you know this, and you probably don't, but you have actually just taken my role on this podcast of misremembering episodes of things and coming up with my own names for them, which is fab.
Yeah,
fab
Scary
stuff.
Forest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
What?
the Quintessential is going to be a monthly thing on the podcast from now on. Every
exciting.
month, we are going to pick a different retro TV show, and we're going to ask you to boil it down to the quintessential. So if you like this episode, you might enjoy it in the future. So there's a few ways you can hop up and make sure you don't miss out on the next one. Get in touch with us.
What is the
We're
next
over
one,
there.
Ben?
The next one is probably going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Michael.
Oh, Buffy Vampire. Are you sure? Have we not covered Buffy Vampire quite recently?
No, but we haven't done the quintessential, have we?
Have we? I don't know. Look, here's my issue with Buffy Vampire. It's kind of contemporaneous with the X-Files. Not quite. But is it too close? All right, fuck it. Let's do Buffy Vampire.
No.
fuck it.
Now,
Fuck it. We'll do
ladies and
Buffy
gentlemen, never
Vampire.
let it be said. No. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's do
Right.
Buffy Vampire.
Right, it's going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a month's time, middle of the month. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a few different ways you can get in touch and let us know your picks. You could give us a follow on Instagram.
Yeah, hop up on it.
It's down there below in the description, Sure Look, Sure Listen podcast. You could give us a follow on TikTok. We're over there.
Busy beavers over there.
Busy beavers over there. We're actually doing quite all right on TikTok. That's at Sure Look, Sure Listen. But ladies and gentlemen, probably the best way to keep in touch with all of our shenanigans here on the podcast is, number one, you can go follow the podcast on Acast. Or more importantly, you could hop up on the Discord that's linked below in the description. And
Really get in there.
Get in
there.
And it's really been popping off lately, and we got some great recommendations, as you just mentioned, Michael, from our loyal Discord followers. Ladies and gentlemen, the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is, if you enjoyed this bloody segment, give us a review wherever you listen.
Yeah, imagine where the quintessential X-Files are. Imagine you're reviewing these episodes of the X-Files, not whatever we've just done.
Yeah. Just
give those
us 5
episodes.
stars.
Yeah, give those X-Files episodes 5 stars.
Yeah. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're not just here to talk about the X-Files, sadly.
Yeah, sadly.
A whole bunch of stuff happened at
Whole bunch
the
of other
Uber
rubbish.
Corp that is Disney.
No, shut up for a second, Benjamin. We have to talk about Borderlands first. Benjamin,
Oh, yeah, shit.
Have you ever thought to yourself, what we should do, right? We're going to adapt a thing. And this thing is a thing aimed at mature audiences with vibrant, energetic characters in fantastical, hyper-violent, sexy situations.
Oh,
So what we're going to do is adapt that for general audiences, take away the violence, make all of the cast be played by people in their mid to late 50s, and just try and make the Guardians of the Galaxy again, but just put a thin veneer of the beloved property over the top of it.
Yeah, and what if we get a whole bunch of writers attached to it, one of whom has actually fought to have his name removed from the property, and then plough ahead with it anyway?
Just play ahead with it anyway. Look, it looks great. Borderlands, we're talking about Borderlands, looks great visually. The trailers looked great, but it's the thing nobody wanted, and the people who did want it weren't given what they wanted. It doesn't follow the plot of the games. It's the worst offences against video game movies from the 90s and 2000s. They're back, baby.
Yeah, it's apparently not great, Michael. Apparently everyone is phoning it in from start to finish. It's a phoned in called apparently Kate Blanchett, of all people, who I still don't understand how they ended up in this film, Michael.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
But she apparently phones it in from start to finish. She has a smirk on her face for the whole thing, and that's all we get of a character that's quite beloved by the franchise.
Not anymore. Did you say franchise? Or
Quite beloved by the franchise fans.
Oh,
franchise
franchise. That's what we
fans.
call it now. Benjamin, look,
Yeah.
doesn't matter anyway. It's absolutely shat the bed. I think it's done 8.8 million internationally on a 110 million budget. It came in 4th at the box office this week, behind Deadpool, Deadpool's wife's film, and the 4th week of Twisters.
Yeah, look, I mean, nobody's catching Deadpool now. It's just crossed 1 billion internationally, Michael. But
Yeah, well done, Deadpool.
Deadpool has saved the Marvel Universe, which is quite a twist on the classic Deadpool narratives, which are usually Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. But there you
Benjamin,
go.
speaking of classic Marvel narratives, Disney's D23 industry show was on this week. 2 weeks after St. Diego's comic convention, just when the wind has gone out of everyone and no one gave a shite. So you and I and our friend Sean were 3 of the 23 people who paid any attention to this. Let's just fucking breeze through this news and be slightly sarcastic about it.
Yeah, there's only one bit that I actually care about, Michael. So we'll breeze through the other stuff before I get to the stuff we care about. We'll end on a high, so to speak.
Okay. So first of all, Disney announced sequels, reboots, and spin-offs.
That's all we got. So we're getting
insane.
Incredibles 3 with Brad Bird. We're getting
Toy Story 5.
We're getting Toy Story 5, where the enemy, and I shit you not, is iPad kids. It's how Woody and the crew are going to deal with a generation that doesn't give a fuck about toys. I'm hoping we're going to get a talking iPad out of it. And that'd be great for toy sales. Yeah, I mean, iPads talk anyway. Rachel Ziegler's Snow White reboot is going ahead with Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Turns out Gal Gadot was playing to character the entire time. I got her. Interestingly, Michael, the dwarves of Snow White and the Little Dwarves are all CGI.
Yeah, we saw that a while ago. It's not called Snow White and the Little Dwarves, Ben.
It's the 7 dwarves, sorry. Little dwarves is a bit of a redundant phrase. Yeah. Snow White and the 7 dwarves.
Snow White and the Little Dwarfs. That's what we call it now at the podcast.
So that's coming out in March of next year. It is a CGI slugfest from start to finish by the looks of it. Yeah, look, not exciting at all, really.
Moana 2.
Moana 2, Moana's a big sister now, is back. That's going to be a thing. So it really was all sequels and things. And the one thing we got a hint of, Michael, that might be original property is about a teenage girl whose soul and mind is transferred into the body of a robotic beaver.
Yes, Hoppers,
which, Michael, contrary to what people might think, I would actually probably watch. That sounds like a bit of fun compared to the rest of it.
Benjamin, I really have to shout out our friend Sean for this, because Sean really just distilled this for me this week.
Go on.
He just kind of texted me anything that was like, have a look at this. You don't have to watch the rest. I was like, oh, you're an absolute hero. You're saving me watching this presentation. I think the most exciting thing that I saw was the announcement and art for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So they're doing a new Spider-Man animated show.
Yeah, sure. Look, if anything can be said about Disney now, Michael, it's just keep doing the same stuff again.
Banging your head off it until it works. Benjamin, my favourite thing about it is a casting of the character of Spider-Man. He's a man who's named after 2 rivers, Hudson, Thames.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him before either, but his name is literally 2 rivers, which I think is fantastic. I want to rename myself to Liffey, Mississippi, and I'm not going to have anyone. That sounds a bit draggy, doesn't it?
I'm all for it. I think that'd be Lippy, Mississippi, if you were going full drag.
Anyway, Ben, was there any good news at D23?
Well, Mufasa, Michael, is getting a prequel.
Oh, God. Oh, holy God. Look, there's one thing I'll say about this Mufasa trailer. First of all, get out of here with your Mufasa was the adopted son and Scar was actually the legitimate king. Stop with your revisionist history.
Michael, why do they keep doing this? Oh, maybe the villain wasn't the villain all along.
Knock it off.
Just let villains be villains.
Yeah, just have baddies.
Jesus Christ. But Michael, we did get one very hopeful glimpse at something. So Michael, I want you to close your eyes for me.
All right, they're closed.
Now you're safe. I can't get you because we record this virtually.
Eugene Tooms is here. It's all right. I'm going to kick the shit out of him, Ben.
He would get into the tiny room, not a bother on him. But, sorry, quick plot hole there, Michael. They handcuff him to a bath faucet at one point.
Can't escape that.
In that episode. Why can't he escape that? Why can't Tooms get out of a handcuff? I don't understand. Anyway, doesn't matter. Cast your mind back, Michael, to 2015.
Yes.
You've heard rumblings, Michael.
Yeah.
In the online community. That we're going to get, of all things, Marvel TV shows on Netflix.
Oh, go on.
And Michael, the first one on the docket is Daredevil.
Hold on, are you doing a throwback to 2014 here? What's going on?
Yeah, I know, it's fab, isn't it? But Michael, that began the reign of Marvel TV shows, and I have to say, they started and peaked in 2014 with Daredevil Season 1 and Jessica Jones Season 1. The two of those shows, Michael, had me hopeful for the rest of the MCU's TV kind of career. And Michael, I can confidently say that I have been nothing but disappointed ever since.
Yeah. Yes,
Disney, not being one to rest on its laurels, has come up with a completely new, innovative property. And we're getting Daredevil Born Again with the exact same cast of the Netflix thing.
Yeah. Mad shit.
Mad
We're nostalgic
shit.
for 10 years ago.
Mad shit, Michael. So, look, we got a trailer. It hasn't been out officially, ladies and gentlemen. It's been leaked just about everywhere to get the hype up. The big spoilers for this, and if you haven't seen the trailer yet, you may want to listen away. But sure, it's just spoilers for a trailer. It doesn't really matter. Everybody's back. Nelson is back. Foggy Nelson is back. Karen Page is back. Wilson Fisk is back as the proper Kingpin, not the weird Hawaiian shirt wearing version that we got in Hawkeye. He was an Echo as well, but famously, Michael, you didn't finish Echo.
Didn't finish Echo, Ben. It's the only thing. I've
So
seen
how would
all
we
of
know?
Hellstrom.
The Bullseye actor from Season 3 is back, Michael.
Oh, I've forgotten that man's name. How shameful.
But the biggest one that we have back is John Bernthal as the Punisher.
Yeah, I think we knew that.
He's coming back. Yeah, I know, but we got to see him, Michael, and that was important. But I think there are some other interesting things. We're getting White Tiger, Michael, not the one played by Jessica Wing. Is it Jessica Wing?
No, that wasn't White Tiger. Was
she
White
not White Tiger? Who was she?
No, she was just
she
Colleen
was White
Wing.
Tiger.
No, she was just Colleen Wing.
Oh, she was just Colleen Wing, was she?
Yeah, Colleen Wing and White Tiger are different characters.
Okay, well, White Tiger's going to be in this, Michael. We got a glimpse of White Tiger in the trailer of thing. Another famous New York kind of superhero with Kung Fu origins. And then, Michael, the most interesting thing that we got out of this was we got a glimpse of a comic book character that isn't actually canon, but has become a fan favourite very quickly since his introduction in 2016. We got a glimpse of Muse.
Who the heck is that, Ben?
Muse is a serial killer from Charles Soule's 2016 run on Daredevil. Quite a popular run by all accounts among X-Men fans, or among Daredevil fans.
And
So it
X-Men
was-
fans.
And X-Men fans, I suppose. But Muse is a very dangerous villain. He doesn't have a lot revealed of him, but he is a serial killer, Michael, and he's a performance and street artist. Now, Michael, you may groan and say, "Oh, Jesus Christ, spare me now,"
Oh, do you want me to?
which would be
Oh, Jesus
you can-
Christ, spare me now.
Good man. But he is actually horrific, Michael, because the tools of his trade and the materials for his art are his victims. So he does like installations of people's brains suspended from the ceiling. They're all victims he's murdered. And he paints huge frescoes in blood. And it turns out that the fresco is made up of 200 different people's blood.
Ugh, Benjamin.
Yeah.
First of all, brother, But second of all, you love a killer with a thing, don't you?
Oh, I
It
do.
Was, it was on a Matapea a few weeks ago. Now
Yeah.
it's Muse. Bloody
He's-
Tooms.
He's very similar, Michael, to Onomatopoeia because he's a monochrome villain. He's black and white. And he kind of works in black and white a lot of the time. But the real thing that makes him so difficult to work with in terms of Daredevil's abilities is he possesses superhuman strength, speed, and agility.
Who doesn't, sure, these days?
And he's a sensory vacuum. So he deadens not only his own smell, sound, and visual presence, but he causes it to disappear from areas at a time.
No. So
he kind of
so
inhales
Daredevil
them
just-
into himself.
Daredevil experiences him as a blank, kind of.
Exactly. But more than that, because I suppose you could then, depending on what type of writer you were, like, oh, well, you just work around the vacuum he creates. But he creates a huge vacuum. So he empties out the surrounding area. So Daredevil is effectively useless. But we got a glimpse of him, Michael. His storyline is absolutely horrific. Daredevil 11, Volume 5 from 2016, if you'd like to get a glimpse at Muse before he's out.
Peak time of Daredevil as well, just riding off the back of the popularity of the first 2 seasons of the show. Ben.
Yeah.
One last thing to cover this week. We got a little teaser trailer for a new Stephen King and Daddy Longlegs production.
Yeah, Michael, what is this? The 1980s?
What's the 1980s? Are they back?
Yeah, I mean, look, there was a time, Michael, when you couldn't swing a cat for hitting a short story Stephen King adaptation to film. Once upon a time. Probably when he was horsing cocaine up his nose, Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've gotten a little teaser trailer, Michael. That's what it is. It's one
That's
of
all it
those
is.
sinister cymbal banging monkeys, and then a man covered in blood.
So Benjamin,
Covered in
the
blood.
monkey
yes.
is a Stephen King. I won't spoil too much, but the monkey it's going to need to be really developed out to make a movie anyway. But the monkey is a seminal Stephen King short story about, and this is not a joke, and a monkey, a toy monkey that has symbols, and when he clangs them together, someone in your family dies.
That's awkward, isn't it? That's really
very uncomfortable.
awkward.
He also has no mates, obviously. The monkey.
Obviously.
Because why would you? But there's a lovely little X-Files throwback, Benjamin. Stephen King wrote an X-Files episode, which was basically a retelling and elaboration of this story called Chinga. Now, it wasn't the most beloved X-Files episode. It's pretty good, but it's the story of this short story basically retold about an evil doll rather than a single cymbal clanging monkey.
Michael, it's said
Yeah.
in the kind of whispered back rooms of pop culture
Go on.
that Disney got their entire model for just using the same content over and over again with a new lick of paint from Stephen King.
From Stephen King, yeah.
This is his entire career.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait and
it's a
see the
pretty
monkey
huge
too.
cast, though.
Go on. Who's in it?
Pretty huge cast. Theo James, our friend Theo James.
Friend of the podcast, Theo James. Benjamin, we do nothing but big up Theo James.
That's
That's a heck of a cast.
a heck of a cast. Elijah Wood.
Oh, my lovely wife's least favourite actor.
What? Why is it just because he's a bit of a Tooms? He's got a bit of a Tooms vibe to him, does he?
So in my, I don't know if I should be saying this on the podcast, but in my lovely lady wife's head, we went to see the film Sin City in 2004 or something.
Oh no!
And it absolutely scared the piss out of her. And I think she combined the characters played by Elijah Wood and Tobey Maguire in that movie, and just kind of has Elijah Wood, Tobey Maguire, and their creepy characters from that movie all exist. Tobey Maguire's not in it, is he?
Who's the old? I think she means the old yellow bastard. does
Yeah,
she?
who plays the yellow bastard? Is that Nick Stahl?
I don't know.
You look that up while I spin my wheels. Anyway, she's combined all of these experiences of creepy, kind of small, timid Hollywood men together into one amalgam creature that she's terrified of.
Yeah, that's completely fair, Michael. In fairness, she would be on the money if she didn't trust Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Who, by all accounts, Michael,
Might be
not
a bit of a bad
fucking
egg,
great.
yeah.
I cannot find this to save my fucking life, Michael. Insane. We'll never know, I suppose.
Well, I'll find it.
But, ladies and gentlemen, who played Old Yellow Bastard on the bloody Sin Cities? There's a few different ways you can let us know. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.com.
It means tiny room in Irish.
But we're probably folding that in soon enough because we don't update it.
Yeah, we don't. It's old. It's Internet 2.0, Ben. We're way past that now.
We're way past that now. You can probably go and follow us over on our Acast website, www.yourluxurelistenpodcast.acast.com.
Yeah, it was Nick Stahl. Wow, where'd I drag that out of?
I don't know. That was in the annals of your mind, Mike.
Yeah.
And you hauled it out of there. But come here to me, ladies and gentlemen. You can also find us, as we previously said on this episode, on Instagram at Your Luxury Listen Podcast.
Hop up on it.
Go on, give us a look there. You can also find us on TikTok at Your Luxury Listen. So popular.
So popular.
Over there.
It really just feeds Ben's social media addiction. So give him a comment.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are plenty of things that feed my social media addiction, but none as prized as yours. So go on over there and give us a comment. But ladies and gentlemen, you can join us in a week's time if you haven't had enough
Go on.
of our pop culture shenanigans. We're going to be taking a look at bubblegum dystopias, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
are we?
Yeah, where everything is shiny and neat on the surface, but it's hiding some sinister shenanigans just below that pristine and gilded veneer.
Oh. How exciting.
Yeah,
Like what?
so-
Give us one example.
Give us your top picks for that. Anything by Terry Gilliam, Michael. The likes of Brazil and so on and
country
so
Brazil.
forth. The country Brazil. Ladies and gentlemen, the best way to give us abuse and tell us how much you hated the episode is to hop up on the Discord.
Or leave a comment on YouTube. That really gets to Ben. Nice one, Sean.
Oh, nothing chaps my buns quite like a raunchy, cheeky YouTube comment.
That was great. My favourite comment
Right.
of the week.
Goodbye.
Right, see you next week. Bye.